So the character of Godzilla is a pop culture icon and has had over 30 films in his franchise, which is absolutely incredible because I am a Godzilla fan and I love the character ever since I was little and still continue to love the character to this day, maybe to an obsessive state.
Godzilla!
However, I figured let's do something a little bit different on my channel and do another tier list, but this time for every Godzilla movie that's been released, because I can't do one on Godzilla designs because I did one before and you guys really seem to like that one. So let's jump into this tier list of Godzilla movies. But before we get started, comment below your Godzilla movie tier list. Make sure you guys subscribe down below if you like this type of content. And here are my official rankings. So at the top we have best of the best being at G tier, the second best being Alpha Lizard. We have Babyzilla basically being our B tier, Not Yet a King being our C tier, Bad Lizard being our D tier, and Zilla tier being our absolute worst of the worst. So starting off with our number one is the original Gojira, and that one of course is going to go in G tier. The original Godzilla movie is a masterpiece in not just tokusatsu, but also in storytelling at the time, really having a metaphor for the bomb that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki and touching on the horrors of that and the manifestation of an actual monster. The human characters are very compelling. It's a very dark and dour film. However, it's a phenomenal film, and for that reason, it has to be in G tier. Of course, it's the first Godzilla movie, and it's the one that was actually the scariest for a while. Can't say the same thing for the second one, Godzilla Raids Again. I'm gonna have to say Not Yet a King. It very much is the rushed sequel, and you can tell that it's very rushed, especially with the production value. The newer suit that they have for enhanced mobility is just not as good as the first film. They messed up the scaling by having them moving way faster than they should. The human characters are very, very dull in the film. However, I will say that it's not an entirely bad film. It's kind of a middle of the road type of Godzilla film, and it does introduce one of the crucial monsters in Godzilla's catalog, being Anguirus, and I do love Anguirus. Next up we have Godzilla versus King Kong. This one's gonna go into Babyzilla tier. It's not necessarily an Alpha Lizard tier. I do think that it's a lot goofier than the prior film, but it's fun for all the right reasons. It knows what it is. It's basically a Western, East versus West boxing match with Godzilla and King Kong, and there's a lot of hype behind it. The human characters are very goofy but entertaining. The story continues to flow. There's a lot happening, and I also love the final battle between Godzilla versus King Kong, setting up more of the wrestler style type of fights that you would have later in the series. And for that reason, I do think that it does belong in Babyzilla tier. Although I am going to deduct some points, though, considering the fact that there's no way you can tell me that Kong won when he got in the water with Godzilla.
Bullshit. 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 Bullshit.
Bullshit!
Next up, we have Godzilla versus Mothra. This one's going to go underneath Godzilla versus King Kong. While I do like the story that they have for Godzilla versus Mothra, I do think the second half of the film is not as strong as the first half, where you had the egg subplot with the humans. That was interesting. The fight between Godzilla and Mothra, that was interesting. Godzilla versus the military with the iconic moment of his face catching fire, very interesting. The second half really slows down when Godzilla's first encounter with Mothra happens, and then when the caterpillars take him out, it does feel kind of like an anticlimactic ending, and something that didn't feel very satisfying. So I'm gonna leave it in Babyzilla tier for now. Next up we have Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This one's gonna go in Not Yet a King. There are things that I do enjoy. The monsters are phenomenal. I love the personality that they started giving to these monsters. I love how we have the introduction of basically Godzilla's most pivotal villain in all of his movies, being King Ghidorah, and the rivalry that they would continue to share for decades. And I also love the fact that they had basically a Batman vs Superman team-up battle with Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla against Ghidorah. It almost felt like Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman versus Doomsday. However, I do think that the human parts are not very entertaining, not very interesting to say the least. But that's not something I can say about the next one. I'm gonna put this one, Invasion of Astro Monster, above Godzilla vs. Mothra. I think that this film has my favorite aliens in all of the Godzilla series. The Exilians are a phenomenal interpretation on the alien subgenre. I love that they had the Godzilla series finally go to space. It just seemed like the next logical step after introducing Ghidorah as a space monster. I love the human story with the Exilians. I just love almost everything about the film. I do think that, again, the problem I have with it is the second half. It does kind of slow down quite a bit, and to a point where it no longer is entertaining. But that first and middle part, just chef's kiss. Really enjoyed it. Exilians, I almost wanted to dress up as an Exilian for Comic-Con one year. Can you believe that? Next up we have Emperor Horror of the Deep, Bad Lizard. Bad Lizard. I do not like this at all. It's a James Bond movie with Godzilla in there, and from what I heard, and this is a rumor, I don't know if it's confirmed or whatever, but the original script was that it was supposed to be a King Kong film, but they decided to change it to Godzilla, and I guess it makes sense because you have this really weird scene where Godzilla's like looking at the lady in a very attracted manner, which is very out of character for Godzilla and seems more like a King Kong type of thing. And it makes sense because Emperor is not a Godzilla villain. This is like a light work for him. The human story is also not very interesting and gets very James Bondy. It's probably one of the weaker ones in the Showa, but oh, trust me, there is far worse down the line. Next up, we have Son of Godzilla. I don't know. I'll put it in Not Yet a King, but at the bottom. The reason why I'll put it there is because it does have a very solid human story. I think that the human story is pretty interesting, where they're on this island with radiated monsters that are like 50 times the size as the regular monsters in the outside world in Earth. I like the fact that we have these Godzilla versus Mantises, and then he basically has an adopted son, and the son moments with Godzilla are very cute. I do think they're very cute. However, I'm not gonna lie, outside of that cuteness, Manila I cannot stand at all, and I do not like the character with a burning passion. I mean, what do you expect? It's like Manila or Minya or however you pronounce it. I don't even care about this character. I don't even care how I pronounce it.
Everybody got that?
Next up we have Destroy All Monsters. Oof. I know a lot of people like this one. I'm not in the same boat, to be honest with you. I like the finale to the film. I think that the fight against Ghidorah, I actually kind of feel bad for Ghidorah because he gets curb stomped by like 6-7 monsters, and it's really an unfair battle, and I've never felt so bad for a guy in a suit in my life. And I do like some of the moments of creature destruction, but this is probably one of the more bland alien subplots, and the fact that they found a way to make the alien subplots very boring to the point where I'm like, alright, can we please get back to the monsters? That's not a good sign. And it's very slow paced, and it really feels longer than the actual runtime. I just don't like this movie as much as a lot of people do, and I understand why a lot of people like it, because it's a lot of our favorite monsters together in one film, almost like the Avengers Endgame of monster movies. It's just that human story is just not very interesting at all. This next movie might change that. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is absolutely insane. I'm gonna put this in Bad Lizard. You know, there's a lot of stuff to like there. Monster action is fine. The humans are fine. But this film is just far too out there for an environmental message Godzilla movie, and very conflicting in tone of whether or not it wants to be a kids movie, but then it shows like horrifying imagery to show the horrors of pollution and environmental damage. It's a very mixed bag Godzilla movie, and there were some parts I remember I didn't like when I was a kid. And I was looking at some stuff like the acid trips some of these people were having, and I'm like, some dude was on some drugs when they were coming up with some of the imagery. And this film was in fact so hated by a lot of people that the director of this film was not allowed to direct another Godzilla movie for a long time. Do I think it's quite that bad? No, but it's not one that I think is particularly good either. Next on the list, we have Godzilla vs. Gigan. Yeah, Zola tier. I'm sorry, I do not like Godzilla vs. Gigan. The human story is really, really bad. I do not like it at all. I think the monsters part is actually pretty good. I really, really like it. I like seeing Godzilla and Anguirus versus Ghidorah and Gigan. But for a kids movie, I don't think it's a kids movie where Anguirus runs into Gigan's buzzsaw and just starts bleeding all over the screen. Also, not a big fan of seeing the monsters talk to each other with giant comic book panel bubbles above their head. Like I said, the monster stuff is fine. I love Gigan. I love all the other monsters. I just don't like the human story. Next up, we have Godzilla's Revenge. Yeah, this is going to be at the top of Zilla tier. This isn't even a Godzilla movie. It's really when Toho was down bad and wanted to just reuse the Godzilla footage they already had to make a movie. It's one of the most lazily put together Godzilla movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And the fact that it all takes like place inside of a child's head the entire time really is just a big middle finger to fans. I do not like this movie at all.
It was horrible.
Yeah, let's move on. Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's not as crazy as Hedorah, I will say that. Not as crazy as Hedorah, but still a bad lizard. Bad lizard. The only things that I really remember the most from this film are seeing Godzilla and Jet Jaguar team up together. Jet Jaguar is a fan favorite for a reason. It's an entertaining giant shape-shifting monster, or robot I mean. It does kind of give off some Ultraman vibes if you really look at the way he moves. But the infamy of this film is that Godzilla dropkick. But the one that I really wanted to get into was Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Yeah, this one I'm gonna put at the very top of... Oof. This is probably going to be my Alpha Lizard list. I've rewatched this film so many times from the Showa films that I think it's probably arguably one of my favorite Showa movies. It's the most balanced in tone. It's goofy and silly, but also has a very serious stakes to it. I love the Mechagodzilla impersonating Godzilla and his battle against Anguirus. It was a brutal fight. I love the reveal of him Terminator style as being a Mechagodzilla. The Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla rematch that they have at the end with King Caesar accompanying him was absolutely phenomenal, especially when he turns himself into a magnet to defeat him. The human drama is actually not that bad, and it actually is relevant to the monster action happening throughout the story, and they do play a vital role in helping Godzilla, surprisingly. And everything kind of flows together a lot more naturally than a lot of the other Showa films, in my opinion. I especially love the music in the film. It has a lot more of a Hawaiian feel to it, but in a proper way. So for that reason, I'm putting it in Alpha Lizard. I think Terror of Mechagodzilla, while being the darker film, I think is going to go in Babyzilla, but at the top. I think that the direction of the film is really cool. I like Titanosaurus a lot as a creature design, but I cannot stand that yell they gave him. It was so annoying that it really made my enjoyment of the film go down a few notches. If they would have given Titanosaurus a much deeper roar, I feel like it would be much more rewatchable for me. And it's such a minute detail that it could have easily been in Alpha Lizard. But right now it's going to be in Babyzilla, but at the top, at the very top of Babyzilla, of course. So the Showa series has concluded, and several years down the line, they decided to reboot Godzilla in a much more gritty and darker approach, much like its 1954 approach. The Return of Godzilla, I will say, I'm gonna put this in probably oof. I'm gonna put it in between Terror and King Kong. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I get what they're going for the darker approach for Godzilla, and I really enjoyed that aspect, and taking the source material a lot more seriously. Also love the way that they scaled Godzilla, and also gave him features very reminiscent to his 1954 version, with the fangs and the ears. Also, they did have, again, a much more serious approach and horror-like approach to the character, but the human story is very bland and very dry, and I found myself fast-forwarding through those moments a lot in this film just to get to some of the better moments like the Godzilla action. But it was a very solid start to a very good set of films in Godzilla's reservoir. Which the next one, Godzilla vs. Biollante, I'm putting this one in Alpha Lizard above Mechagodzilla. This film, when I first watched it, was so polarizing and so different that I quite didn't know what to think about this one, to be honest with you. I liked it, but I didn't love it at first. But when I rewatched this film, I was like, this is a very balanced Godzilla movie. It had a very important message of not meddling with things that you should not be meddling with, and sometimes you need to leave some things alone because there are consequences to your actions despite how you be feeling. I love the idea that they had this scientist's daughter and Godzilla cells and a plant mixed together to make this abomination of Biollante. It's a very unique take on a newer Godzilla villain. It's the first Godzilla villain that actually used G cells to make a villain for him. I love the creature effects, Biollante being some of my favorite and probably the whole franchise. An excellent soundtrack, and a pretty solid human story that actually is pretty tragic. So yeah, I'm gonna say this one's an Alpha Lizard. And the next one on the list is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This film I'm going to put in Babyzilla, but above Terror of Mechagodzilla. The time travel shenanigans that they have in there are very inconsistent and do mess with the timeline quite a bit when you think about it. And there's a lot of moments in here that just make a lot of things make no sense. Like, they changed the events of the 84 film, but then the events supposedly still happen. Like, there's just so many time travel shenanigans in there that make no sense. Also, not a big fan of the Dorats forming into King Ghidorah. I can't believe these little things made in this thing. However, I will say that the monster battles between Godzilla and King Ghidorah were really awesome. Also using signature moves that he would use in the future, like the tail slam. Also love seeing him blow off one of the heads with the atomic breath. And then they also introduced a newer variant of King Ghidorah in there, like Mecha King Ghidorah, which I thought was a very fun concept. And it was really cool to see from them trying to bring Godzilla to beat King Ghidorah. And a moment after Godzilla beats King Ghidorah, he goes right back to destroying Japan. This traditional Godzilla. He's not a hero villain. He just does his own thing. It's a very fun movie, and I think the Terminator references in there are absolutely hilarious. M11 being my absolute favorite character in the whole film. But it's not like the best of the best Godzilla movie. It's a very fun one, but not the best of the best. Godzilla vs. Mothra, Battle for Earth. This one's probably my least favorite of the Heisei. But it's not in Bad Lizard. I'm gonna put this one in Not Yet a King, but definitely above Raids Again. Yeah. It's more rewatchable than Raids Again. I do think that rehashes a lot of plot lines from Godzilla vs. Mothra, and it does kind of feel like a Mothra movie, but Godzilla is just kind of thrown in there. And I do think that the human story is very much a repeat of that first Godzilla vs. Mothra film, so it doesn't quite feel like its own thing, which is very disappointing for me personally. So yeah, I think this is like the right spot for it to be, honestly. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. This one I actually really enjoy a lot. I enjoy it more than King Ghidorah, to be honest with you. I think that adds a really cool Godzilla moments in there. I think that they did a great job at translating Mechagodzilla to this era for him. Rodan was an absolute treat in there. I love the monster battles. I think the human story is fine. No, I mean fine. I think it's just passable. It's not terrible. It's not great. And it just gets you right into the monster action between these two. I think that the finale is where the film truly shines and at its best. This was also the first introduction of Godzilla Jr. in the Heisei series, a character that's very pivotal. And overall, yeah, it's a very good, solid Godzilla movie. It also has a fantastic score in there, the Mechagodzilla March being probably one of my favorites, and I do have it in my playlist, actually. Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Oh boy, this one drops right back down again. This is not yet a king, but definitely above the Mothra one for sure, and much more rewatchable. An excellent soundtrack. Space Godzilla being a iconic Godzilla villain. I don't like how they made Baby Godzilla so cutesy. It feels very out of place in the film. Mogira is supposedly the upgrade to Mechagodzilla, but feels more like a downgrade than everything else. I do think that the revenge plotline in this film is not very strong, to be honest with you, and it really does make the character seem a lot more annoying more than helpful as he tries to make irrational decisions. And also, what in the world did you think tear gas was going to do against Godzilla? I mean, come on now. But overall, it's still a fun Godzilla movie. I just think that's not as good as some of the other ones in the Heisei series, but definitely better than Mothra Battle for Earth, that's for sure. And this brings us to Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Oh, this is an easy S, or I'm sorry, G tier. Absolute G tier. G tier, G tier, G tier. Godzilla vs. Destroyer is the penultimate film in the Heisei series. It really sends Godzilla out with a bang in this movie. I love Destroyer in this film. He feels like the ultimate villain for him. It's the oxygen destroyer from the first film brought back in a monster manifestation to take out this Godzilla. That is a brilliant idea. And I do love the burning Godzilla through the film. It's probably one of his most iconic looks for a reason. this is the film that killed Godzilla, and it felt very earned. And the film always subverted expectations as well. I did not expect to see Junior die. Kinda. And also, yeah, the military actually defeated a monster for once. They're the ones that took out Destroya, not Godzilla. It's a very, very good send-off for the character, and if you guys were looking for a proper payoff to a series, I feel like Godzilla vs. Destroya is the payoff for Godzilla. And honestly, if this was the last Godzilla film, I actually think I would have been fine with it. Oh boy. Yeah, no question. 98. Zilla tier. It almost makes me want to change the tier list name to That's a Lot of Fish, because that's nothing. That's all this film is. This isn't even a Godzilla film. I want to get super into detail on my thoughts on Godzilla 98 since I already did a bad movie review on this. But my god, I cannot stand this film. And I've heard people give arguments on this film trying to defend it, saying, oh, you know, well, it's just a monster movie, it's not a Godzilla movie. Then why title it Godzilla if you're not going to make a Godzilla movie? Yeah, you belong here in Zilla tier. That's why I named the tier list Zilla tier, just for this movie right here.
Know your fucking place, trash.
It was so bad to the point where Japan had to come back and be like, let's show you how it's done with Godzilla 2000. Yeah, Godzilla 2000 is in Baby Zilla, but like at the top of it. This felt like a true return to form for Godzilla. I think that it has a very solid human story. I think that the Orga monster is a very interesting Godzilla villain, and it's a very, like, by the books Godzilla film. I just wish that it took more liberties than it did. And I also really like how they changed up the design. It's probably one of the more drastic changes for Godzilla that we've seen, but it was a welcome return to form for the character. And I do like, well, actually, hold on. Am I changing my mind in the middle of this tier list? You know what? I don't like it more than Mechagodzilla 2. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's still a really good Godzilla movie. And this is like a first good introduction Godzilla movie for a lot of people who are looking to get into the character. Can't say the same for Mechagearus. I think this one's also another Zilla tier, unfortunately. I do like the music through the film, but the storyline with shooting a black hole at Godzilla is not very, what would the word be? It makes no sense. Why would you fire a black hole at the Earth, number one? Number two, the characters make a lot of irrational decisions throughout the film that I just kind of roll my eyes at. The special effects for the monster fights do not look very good at all. It's corny, but it conflicts with the tone that they're trying to go for serious moments as well. Yeah, it's not a very balanced Godzilla movie, and it's not very good. But you know what? Actually, I'll put you in Bad Lizard. You got saved. Godzilla GMK for a while was my absolute favorite Godzilla movie, I'm gonna be honest with you. This film does so much right. It really rediscovers the mythology behind a lot of these Godzilla characters. I like the fact that they brought in Baragon. I wish we could have seen Baron and Anguirus like the director originally intended for this film. That would have been nice, but the Guardians Monsters storyline was very good. The human characters were all realistic. I love the way that they displayed scale in this film. This is probably the biggest that Godzilla has felt in like the meatiest, despite the fact that he's actually around the same height of the original Godzilla. And the idea to have Godzilla being the vengeful dead souls of World War II victims, embodying and resurrecting this Godzilla, is just chef's kiss as a horrifying concept, especially with the whitened out eyes that he has throughout the film to signify that he is vengeance. And I think that this is probably one of the scarier Godzillas that we've had in a while. An absolute fantastic monster combat throw. Absolutely fantastic. Chef's kiss Godzilla movie. And definitely the best of the millennium, if you ask me. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. This one, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think this one is actually in... Oof. Yo, I don't know, y'all. This one is very difficult for me to... Because I'm trying to decide between this and Tokyo SOS, because they're essentially the same movie. I'm gonna go with my gut. This one's an Alpha Lizard for me. And the reason why I say that is because I really love the Akane character a lot. It's like everything that went wrong with Mechagodzilla with that lead character, they took to heart and made this character 50 times better. Has a very compelling storyline. Love the idea of the bones of the original 54 Godzilla being used to build this newer Mechagodzilla. It's one of the more unique Mechagodzillas with the absolute zero cannon. I love the idea of him also going rogue in the middle of the movie. I did not expect that when I saw it for the first time. The finale feels very satisfying, and also really enjoy the combat. Despite the effects not looking really good, I do think that it's a solid one. I'm gonna put Tokyo SOS also in alpha tier as well. It's like the visual effects aspect to against Mechagodzilla were all improved in Tokyo SOS. The visual aspects to this film definitely look better than against Mechagodzilla. But the biggest problem that I have is that it's the exact same storyline where you have someone go inside the machine, try to repair it, they pilot it, and it goes right back into the ocean, but this time for good. And they throw Mothra in the mix. It's the same storyline as Against, but it just looks better than Against. So that's why I'm putting these two side by side. Godzilla Final Wars. This one, oh, you guys are gonna hate me for this. You guys are going to hate me for this. S tier, I'm sorry. It is so bad that I love it. It is the most entertaining Godzilla film that... The film basically tells you to turn off your brain. It has crazy monster hand-to-hand combat, crazy human hand-to-hand combat, ridiculous return of the Exilians, and they're over the top. This film is basically Godzilla candy being thrown at you the entire time, and it's just meant for you to eat it, get a stomachache, and go straight to bed. I'm not gonna lie, this film is the equivalent of literally just turn your brain off. It's meant to be dumb fun, and this Godzilla movie is the only Godzilla movie that I was able to watch and just absolutely have a smile on my face every time I watch it. It's so entertaining, so entertaining. Is it a good film? No. But it's in G tier because it's probably one of my most rewatched just because it's so much fun, so much fun. Godzilla 2014 is kind of a mixed bag for me, because on one hand, it's really well done how they do the monster scaling, and I do like the first half of the film, but I think the problem I have with it is the constant teasing that Gareth Edwards would do, and I will always remember how this film made me mad on my birthday. I remember I was so excited to see this Godzilla movie, and I got to see it on my birthday in theaters. And I went to the dine-in theater. My dad took me when I was younger, and I remember we were in there, and I was so excited to see a Godzilla movie. And every time Godzilla would show up, I'd be like, "Oh, he's gonna do something." Then the camera would cut away, and I felt so disappointed. I didn't want to tell my dad that because he spent so much money on me for my birthday to see this film. But it was very disappointing to see that he would constantly cut away from him when things were just getting good. I think the moments that are good really deliver a lot, and I really love the scaling of the movie, but I think there's a lot of disappointment that comes with it as well. I think this one goes in Alpha Lizard, but at the bottom, just for the scaling of the monsters and the first half, but that's really all about I give it. I don't find myself rewatching this one a lot. Okay, maybe if I'm saying all that, then it sounds like I'm not entirely sure about where to put this one. Give me 10 minutes. After 10 minutes of going through my brain, I finally decided to put this one and Babyzilla in between Mechagodzilla 2 and 2000. Things to like about it is just not very watchable for me because, like I said, I just don't like the constant teasing like that. That just really brings it down for me. Shin Godzilla, on the other hand, yeah, this is the easy S tier. This was a very different take on Godzilla that was very different, very unprecedented, but very welcome. I do think that it does kind of take a different approach on how people would handle a Godzilla attack in a real life situation. As a real life commentary on events that happened. It feels very, what would the word be? Political. I also love how they do this interpretation of Godzilla where he's constantly evolving, and his atomic breath sequence in this movie absolutely blew me and my theater away. Yeah, it's absolutely belonging in G tier, and I would highly recommend this as being one of my top 10. Let's get this out of the way. Anime trilogy, all of this is going in Zilla tier. These movies were so boring, man. So boring, and it's so sad because they had so much potential. Especially the second one, but then it's just like everything just was just not good, man. I'm sorry, I don't like any of these films. They were all boring. Human characters are boring. The story was not very good. And monster fights were very lackluster. Not a very good trilogy at all. Godzilla King of the Monsters is going into Alpha Lizard, and definitely right here in the middle. I do think the monster parts in this are definitely the strongest parts and probably some of the best Godzilla sequences I've seen from the American versions. But the human story is laughably bad. On Millie Bobby Brown's character's side, it's just not very interesting at all. But when the monster action does hit, and there's a lot, it's where the film absolutely shines. And you can tell this film was made by an absolute Godzilla fan with Michael Dougherty directing it. It does feel like a film made for the fans, so I do give a lot more praise for that. Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm going to put this one right above Godzilla King of the Monsters. As a matter of fact, it's going to be at the top of Alpha Lizard because it's one of the most rewatchable in the MonsterVerse. It gets straight to the point. These two are battling it out through the entire movie. I love that they have them team up at the end against Mechagodzilla, and this film does give a definitive winner against Godzilla and Kong, being Godzilla, which makes sense. The human story is not anything great either, but it does get you from point A to point B and is very rewatchable. So yes, absolutely in Alpha Lizard. Godzilla Minus One is the best Godzilla film I've ever seen. And, you know, this is all subjective. This whole list has always been subjective, but I think this film did something to me that no other Godzilla film has ever done, and that is had the most captivating human story I've ever seen. Every time I rewatch this film, I've always forgotten the time. And when a Godzilla film makes you forget the time whenever you're watching it, it's doing something right because you know you want to watch more. The way they do this interpretation of Godzilla is very, very evil, twisted. He's much more of an actual monster than a force of nature, and I love that aspect. I think that the human characters and the way they tie into their personal journey throughout and how they have to deal with this version of the character feels like the perfect Godzilla movie. And it was the Godzilla movie that I felt the most terrified of Godzilla ever. And for that aspect, it has to be in absolutely G tier. And I cannot wait for the sequel minus zero to come out because this was top dog. Do I think that film can come remotely close to that? Oh, that's going to be a hard task to do, man. Godzilla x Kong The New Empire, I think is good. But I'm going to say not great. I'll put it right here below Millennium. It's very rewatchable, very fun. It's just that skip through the human parts. They're not very good. And they are actually worse than Godzilla x Kong or Godzilla vs. Kong's human moments. But the monster moments are very fun. And it's much more of a Kong-centered movie, which is not a complaint. and I really do like that. However, it's just that I don't think that it felt like as much of a grand movie, even though it tried to play itself off more as one. And the human characters are just not very good. Actually, they're probably worse than King of the Monsters human characters, to be honest with you. And after the longest tier list I've ever done in my entire life, but certainly not my last, this is my official tier list for all of the Godzilla movies, in my personal opinion. I know there's going to be a lot of controversial placements on this list. However, my opinion is just my opinion, and it's not complete fact. It's all subjective.